Hello, St. Catherine guitar students. Here we are, lesson 3, I believe, and we're going to learn the E minor chord today and the song Father, I Adore You. We're also going to introduce what I call a thumb pluck. And so let's go ahead and get started. You should have your guitars in tune. Just go down, here's the bass string, check that, 5th string, 4th string, 3rd string, or G, 2nd string, B, and the 1st string, another E. We've learned the D chord, and we've learned the A7, and hopefully by now you're getting your chord changes fairly fast. Here's an exercise that I picked up from another guitar teacher. I think it's Justin Guitar, great guitar teacher. He's an Australian gentleman. But he suggests trying to time yourself for a minute, if you have a minute timer, and see how many clean guitar chord changes you can make in a minute. And with the goal of trying to get through the changes, if you can get up to 30, that's pretty good. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can do a lot more than 30, but see if you can get up to 30 and then keep working from that. If you can get up to 60, that's a chord every second. 1001, 1002, 1003. That's pretty fast. Twice that fast. So anyway, that's one way to practice any of your chord changes. Today we're going to learn a new chord, the E minor. So if you look at your chord chart, it's on the back page of your chord chart. It's at the top in the middle of the first row. And you use, in the diagram it says to use 2nd and 3rd fingers. Sometimes you'll use your 2nd and 3rd fingers. Sometimes you'll use your 1st and 2nd fingers. In fact, in this chord change, in this particular song, we're going to use 1st and 2nd fingers. So you might pencil in here, right above this on the chords here, where it has the E minor, where it has 2 and 3. Make that a 1 and a 2. You don't necessarily have to cross out the 2 and 3, because sometimes you'll use it that way. So, but we're going to use the 2nd and 3rd finger. So if we look at the song Father, I Adore You, we're coming from a D chord to an E minor. So we need to get our 1st and 2nd fingers, these two, over here on the 5th and the 4th strings respectively. 1st finger on the 5th string, 2nd finger on the 4th string. A way to make that change a little easier is to just briefly hold down the 3rd finger as a stationary point, and then lift these up, put them over, and as you put them down, lift off the 3rd finger. When you go back to the D, you can drop the 3rd finger down and bring these back over. So you want to practice that change from D to E minor, back to D to E minor. Go through it real slow and then try playing it. So you get your D chord, and you can just take your thumb and slowly brush down. Well, you don't hit the 6th string on a D chord. 5 strings here. Make sure they're all clean. Then go to the E minor. You can strum all 6 strings on an E minor. It's a lovely sounding chord. Then back to the D, 5 strings, 6 strings on the E minor. So work on that D to E minor change. And then the next change we have to do, we have to go from E minor. If you look at the first line of the song, it goes D, then E minor, then we have to go to A7. Now to go to A7 from this E minor is real easy. We just lift up our second finger is in the same place in both chords. So we're just going to lift up the first finger and drop this third finger down on the second fret of the second string. So going back, E minor, lift up on the third finger and put the first finger down on the second fret of the fifth string. Then to go to the A7, lift up the first finger, put down the third finger on the second fret of the second string. And you want to do both those things at the same time. So you want to be putting this down when you're lifting this up, putting your first finger down when you lift up the third finger, and then when you go to the A7, put your third finger down as you lift up on the first finger. Because if you make it a three-step motion, like first I put down this finger, then I lift this up, those are extra steps and it'll slow you down. You want to do them both at the same time. And then strum it slowly, making sure you don't have any buzzes. If you have a buzz, figure out why and fix it. And then we go back from the A7 to the D, and we already know how to do that. Just slide up on the third finger and slide that one fret up to the third fret of the second string, and then put your first and second fingers down on the second fret of the third string and the second fret of the first string. So these chords, you want to practice all 4 chords in succession. So start with the D, and then the E minor, and then go to the A7, and then the D. D, E minor, A7, and D. When you get that up to about this tempo, E minor, A7, and D. And then we can sing the song. It goes, Father, I adore you. Lay my life before you. How I love you. And the other verses, Jesus, I adore you, and Spirit, I adore you. You can even do this as a round. Now, if you know what a round is, then each line is a different part. So one person would start out singing, Father, I adore you. And as they go on to the next line, the second person would start in at the first line. Father. So they're singing, Father, I adore you, the same time the person that started is singing, Lay my life before you. And then both those voices continue on, and a third person can come in at the start again with Father, I adore you. So you can keep 3 parts going, and it's very, very pretty. Obviously, I can't do it for you by myself, but when you get good on this, give that a try. So that's the E minor chord, D. You want to work on the D to E minor change, and you want to work on the E minor to A7 change. One other thing I want to throw at you today is this thumb pluck. Now the thumb pluck may not be the most musical tool in your arsenal eventually, but it is an important tool for getting your hand into the position, your right hand into the position that it needs to be to be a finger picker, to do arpeggios. Eventually we're going to do Father, I adore you. But we're not ready for that yet. It's real easy to get bad habits on the right hand. So if we learn properly how to pluck with this thumb pluck and get our fingers familiar with where they go, then finger picking will become a lot easier, and you'll have better technique and fewer problems down the road. So this thumb pluck it's like the thumb brush. It's just like the thumb brush. But instead of brushing, we're going to be more accurate, and we're going to pluck each string. So we put the first finger, and you don't even have to hold a chord down as you're practicing this. You can let your left hand rest. The thumb would be on the fourth string, first finger on the third string, second finger on the second string, and third finger on the third string. Thumb, and then we're going to pluck all three of these at once. And when you pluck, the motion that you want, is from, most of the energy comes from this big knuckle. You're moving from here with a little bit of motion here to bend, but you don't want to bend this final joint on your fingers at all. You want that to be solid. In fact, when I used to teach little kids at school, they had trouble with that with their small hands, and sometimes their finger would bend backwards, or they would want to bend it. So I would take tape and literally tape this joint for them. They thought that was really cool. They loved playing with tape. But I would tape that joint so it didn't bend. But your hand, you should be strong enough in high school to just not bend that first finger. So this joint bends, this joint bends a little bit, but there's nothing on this. You don't want any bending here, either forward or going backwards, resisting against the string. And so you want to get, at the start, we want to get all three fingers collapsing like that. One way to practice it is to bring them all the way to the palm. So, like, and the little finger, you're not going to use it, but it can just travel along with these. Some people, they keep their little finger out straight. Most people just let it travel with the third finger here, because these two want to go together. Their ligaments go through the same hole in what's called the carpal tunnel in your wrist. So those fingers are pretty dependent on each other. They like to move together. So that's the motion you want. Let's go back to let's go back to a one chord song. Are You Sleeping? So we're going to do a thumb pluck with, well, first let's do it just on open strings. No chord, no song. So thumb on the fourth string, and then pluck, and then thumb on and then after you pluck, you want to plant your hand back. You want to put your hand back in that position with your fingers right where they belong on those strings, because a big part of the purpose for this exercise is to get your fingers aware and so that they know exactly where they belong on those strings, and you're not flailing around looking for strings here. I can just, do whatever I want with my hand, put it right in this position, because I know I've played for over 50 years, and it goes right on the guitar, fingers perfectly placed, ready to go. So you want to develop that kind of awareness. That's called kinesthetic awareness. Kinesthetic means your body awareness. It's how you know, even with your eyes closed, you can touch your nose, right? That's you're aware of certain things in your body. Your body has a knowledge of its own. You want to develop that kind of knowledge in your right hand here as far as where these strings are going to be, so that it's never lost and it can find it. The other thing you want to do is, let's see here. So the arm placement. So my right forearm here, let me bring this a little more this way. My right forearm is up. This is called the lower bout of the guitar. This is the upper bout, B-O-U-T. And you want this part of your forearm right about here resting on the lower bout, which puts your hand in a position over the sound hole. Then you may need to bend your wrist just a little bit. You don't want to bend it a lot, just a little bit, so that your thumb is forward of your fingers. You don't want your fingers forward of your thumb, because then the thumb and the first finger can collide sometimes. You want your thumb out here so it has its own area to travel, and then your fingers have their own, each one has their own path on the guitar. It's all right for these fingers to brush against each other. That's probably preferable than having them open and not touching. Having them brush against each other lightly kind of gives them a little more awareness of where they are. So that's some of the basics of right hand position. This part of your arm, just a few inches forward of your elbow. On the lower bout, the hand over the sound hole, just a little bit of the bend on the wrist to get the thumb. And the thumb, in finger picking, the thumb almost always plays the 3 bass strings. So it has to travel back and forth. And the first finger always plays the 3rd string, the second finger always plays the 2nd string, and the 3rd finger always plays the 1st string. So that's some of the basics of finger picking. So we want to do this thumb pluck. So let's do it. We're going to alternate 4/5 here. Just on open chord. Thumb, pluck, plant it back, put your hand back, thumb, pluck, plant your hand back in position, thumb on the 4th, pluck, plant with your thumb on the 5th, pluck, plant, or thumb pluck, 4th string, thumb, pluck, plant your hand back down, 5th string, thumb, pluck. So that's one thing to practice here. Then you can try it on Are You Sleeping? Once you get good at it, then you don't have to do the plant. The planting your hand back down in between each thumb pluck, plant, thumb, pluck, plant. That's a beginning step to help you find the strings. Once you've gotten comfortable and are become accurate at finding those strings, then you can just do thumb, pluck, and you're planting at the same time you're plucking your thumb. So let's try on the Are You Sleeping? Now let's assume that at this point that you've got the plant down and you've found where you are. So we're going to do this slow. Thumb, pluck, thumb. So we're on a D chord, 4th string, pluck, 5th string. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Brother John, Brother John. Morning bells are ringing, morning bells are ringing. Ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, dong. Another thing is the motion coming through here. The motion should come through this way. You don't want your hand bouncing up like this. No, the hand stays stable. The back of my hand shouldn't be moving much. Thumb, pluck, thumb, pluck, thumb, pluck, thumb, pluck. So that's a little bit of the thumb pluck. So today we've learned the Father I Adore You. We've learned the D to the E minor change using first and second fingers on the E minor chord. And then the E minor to the A7 change and back to the D. We learned Father I Adore You. And we learned a thumb pluck technique. And you can put that thumb pluck in to the Father I Adore You, and it would sound, Father I adore you. And so on each chord, I'm plucking the root. So on a D, I'm plucking the 4th string. On an E minor, my thumb's on the 6th string. On the A7, my thumb's on the 5th string. And the D is on the 4th string. And if that's confusing to you, go back and look at your chord chart and look at the string that has the star over it. That's the one that you start the thumb on. And you look at the numbers in the box. A D goes 4 to 5. Well, the 4 is the most important. That's the root of the chord. On an E or an E minor, it goes 6 to 4 or 6 to 5. And an A, it goes 5 to 4. So the D would be the 4th string, then E minor, 6th string, A7, and D. And these 3 fingers are always still plucking just the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd fingers, or strings. Okay, well that's all I have for you in this lesson. And next week we'll learn at least another chord. So we learned the E minor today, yeah. And Father I Adore You. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.